My family betrayed me, my golden child brother had an affair with my fiancée, and my parents took his side. Reddit family drama doesn't even begin to describe my life. My younger brother had an affair with my fiancée for months and even got her pregnant before my wedding, all while my parents fully supported him. This is going to be a long one, and trust me, it's as messed up as it sounds. I'll try to keep things as concise as possible, but there's a lot to unpack here. Whether people believe me or not doesn't matter, I just need to get this off my chest. I won't sugarcoat anything, though I'll leave out any identifying details for those who aren't already aware of the situation. I'm Nathan, a 32-year-old guy, and until a few months ago, I was engaged to my girlfriend of 5 years, we'll call her Jessica. My younger brother, Ryan, 29, has always been the golden child in our family. If you've ever wondered which is the favorite child, let me tell you, it sure as hell wasn't me. To really understand why this betrayal hit me so hard, I need to give some background on my family dynamic and how things got to this point. Growing up, Ryan could do no wrong in my parents' eyes, while I was constantly criticized and punished for the smallest things. This wasn't just typical sibling rivalry or minor favoritism, it was blatant and extreme. If Ryan broke something, I'd get blamed. If he started a fight, I'd be the one grounded. If we both got straight A's, he'd get a brand new gaming console while I'd get a half-hearted pat on the back and a lecture about keeping up the good work. It felt like a classic case of favorite child collective in real life. Our parents, Mark and Diane, always had some excuse for their behavior. Ryan's younger, he needs more attention. You're the older one, you should be more responsible. Ryan's just more sensitive, we have to be careful with him. This family drama Reddit story isn't just about sibling rivalry, it's about being gaslit and emotionally sidelined for years. It was a never-ending cycle of double standards that left me feeling like I was nothing more than an afterthought in my own home. As we got older, the favoritism only became more obvious. When I got into a great university with a partial scholarship, my parents barely acknowledged it. But when Ryan decided to go to community college, they threw him a huge celebration and even bought him a car to help him commute, never mind the fact that I had been biking 5 miles each way to my part-time job for years. And this is just the beginning of how my Ida Reddit story unfolds. Because what happened next? It changed everything. I moved out as soon as I could, desperate to escape the toxic whirlwind that had been my childhood home. Unlike Ryan, who had everything handed to him on a silver platter, I had to carve my own path out of nothing. I worked 2 jobs, took out loans, and hustled my way through college, every success hard-earned, every step forward a battle against the weight of my past. Meanwhile, Ryan barely lasted a semester in college before deciding it wasn't for him. And instead of disappointment or concern, my parents hailed his decision as a stroke of wisdom. Not everyone is meant for the traditional path, my mother, Diane, had said with an air of condescension, as if dropping out was some act of self-discovery. Ryan knows himself well, he's not a follower like the rest of the world. They bankrolled every one of his half-baked business ideas after that, pouring thousands into doomed ventures that never made it past a few months. I watched from a distance as he burned through their retirement savings, while I scraped by, living off instant ramen and sheer determination. The double standard was infuriating, but no one dared to question it. Even as I tried to distance myself from the madness, my parents always found a way to drag me back in. Holidays were a war zone, dressed up as family dinners, subtle jabs disguised as casual conversation, comparisons so blatant they might as well have put up a scoreboard. "Oh, you're still at that entry-level job," my mother would say with a dismissive wave of her hand. "Well, Ryan is thinking of starting another business. He's just so entrepreneurial." Never mind that I was steadily climbing the corporate ladder, building something real, while Ryan was running through our parents' money like a kid in a candy store. I still tried to maintain a relationship with him, despite everything. He was my brother. But it was always one-sided. If I reached out, he ignored me. If I tried to connect, he found a way to turn every conversation into a competition, one that, conveniently, he always won. If I got a promotion, he suddenly had a huge business opportunity coming up. If I started dating someone, he miraculously found himself in a serious relationship too. It was a game to him, one where the only rule was that I could never come out ahead. And then, one day, in the middle of one of my failed attempts to reconnect, I met Jessica. She was a friend of one of Ryan's short-lived girlfriends, and the moment we started talking, I felt something I had never felt before, genuine connection. Jessica was everything I had ever wanted in a partner, smart, funny, kind, and absolutely stunning. For the first time in my life, I felt like I was the one who got lucky. We started dating, and I finally understood what it meant to feel valued, loved, and chosen, not because I was convenient, but because I was enough. But of course, my family had to ruin that too. Predictably, my parents weren't thrilled. They didn't even try to hide it. "Jessica is very beautiful," my mother said one evening. her voice laced with something that wasn't quite admiration. "Are you sure she's really interested in you, Nathan?" My father, Mark, was even less subtle. "Huh. She seems out of your league," he muttered over dinner, barely looking up from his plate. "Hope she's not in it for the money." Money. As if I had any. As if Ryan wasn't the one they were showering with cash at every turn. But the worst part? Ryan. Suddenly, he was overly interested in my relationship, asking questions, wanting details, acting as if Jessica was some fascinating new project he needed to dissect. "So, how'd you meet her? What does she like? What kind of guys is she into?" At the time, I was too blinded by my own happiness to see the warning signs. I thought, maybe this is it, maybe Ryan finally cares about something in my life. Looking back, I should have seen the red flags waving in my face. But I didn't. Instead, I fell harder for Jessica. After a year of dating, we moved in together. Life was everything I had ever dreamed of. We had good jobs, traveled together, and made plans for the future. For the first time, I thought, maybe, just maybe, I can have the life I always wanted. A successful career. A loving partner. Maybe even kids someday. So, on our 4th anniversary, I proposed. It wasn't anything flashy, just a quiet dinner at home, a heartfelt speech, and the most honest words I had ever spoken. And she said yes. I was on top of the world. We decided on a long engagement, no rush, no stress, just time to plan the perfect wedding. We had our whole lives ahead of us. Or so I thought. When we announced the engagement to my family, their reactions were predictable. My mother's lips stretched into a stiff, artificial smile, like she had just tasted something bitter but was too polite to spit it out. "Oh, how nice," she said, her voice laced with barely concealed disdain. My father, barely acknowledging us, kept his eyes glued to the TV, nodding absently as the Joann Fabric Store's closing segment played in the background. "Good luck with that," he muttered, turning up the volume as if the news was more important than my future. And Ryan? He just sat there, smirking, like he knew something I didn't. At the time, I brushed it off. I shouldn't have. Ryan, though. Ryan's reaction was the strangest of all. He congratulated us, but there was something off about his smile, something almost predatory, as if he knew a secret I didn't. His handshake lingered just a little too long, his gaze fixed on Jessica in a way that made my stomach twist. But I brushed it off, convincing myself that I was just overthinking things. Maybe it was my own insecurities creeping in. Maybe I just wasn't used to feeling like I had something worth envying. The next year became a whirlwind of wedding planning and work stress. Jessica and I were both drowning in long hours at our jobs, saving up for the wedding and a down payment on a house. We didn't see each other as much as before, but I told myself it was normal. Every couple goes through rough patches. That's just life, right? Looking back, I should have seen the signs. Jessica started pulling away, her laughter no longer as effortless, her touch no longer as frequent. She was always on her phone, smiling at texts from someone she claimed was just a friend from work. She started going out more, spending nights with her girlfriends, coming home late with the scent of alcohol and cologne clinging to her like a confession she refused to make. But I trusted her. Completely. The idea that she might be cheating never even crossed my mind, let alone the nightmare of her being with my own brother. Then, 4 months ago, everything shifted. Jessica became moody, irritable, constantly nauseous. At first, I worried she was overworking herself, but then a thought sparked something warm in my chest. Maybe she was pregnant. The idea thrilled me. We hadn't been actively trying, but we had talked about having kids someday. I imagined myself as a father, planning nurseries, picking baby names, picturing a future where we built a life together, a family. Then, one night, she sat me down. Her hands trembled, her breath uneven. There were tears in her eyes, and I felt my stomach tighten with an unease I couldn't name. And then she said the words that destroyed me. "I'm pregnant, but it's not yours." The world around me stopped. Everything I had built my life around came crashing down in an instant. I felt like the air had been stolen from my lungs, my body turning cold as my mind struggled to process what she had just said. "Not mine." I forced my voice to work, barely managing a whisper. "Then, whose is it?" Jessica's face crumpled, fresh sobs racking her body. And then, barely audible, she whispered, "It's Yan's." Silence. A deafening, suffocating silence. My brother. My own brother. I couldn't move. I couldn't think. All I could feel was this overwhelming weight pressing down on me, suffocating me in a way no betrayal ever had before. It was like the foundation of my entire life had been ripped out from under me, leaving me free falling into nothingness. Jessica kept talking, her voice frantic, desperate, but I barely heard her. The words blurred together, excuses, confessions, apologies, but one thing cut through the noise with sharp clarity. It had started at our engagement party. Ryan had cornered her, whispering poison in her ear. He told her she was making a mistake marrying me. That she could do better. That he could give her everything I couldn't. He played on her insecurities, chipped away at her loyalty piece by piece, until he had convinced her to betray me in the most unforgivable way. And it wasn't just a one-time mistake. No. They had been having an affair for months behind my back. I stood up, my body moving on instinct, my hands trembling with rage I could barely contain. I couldn't listen to another word. I couldn't look at her, couldn't stand the sight of the woman I had loved so deeply, the woman who had chosen him over me. Get out, I said, my voice eerily calm despite the storm raging inside me. Jessica broke down completely, falling to her knees, clutching at me like a drowning person grasping for a life raft. Nathan, please, I love you. It was a mistake. I wasn't thinking. I didn't mean for this to happen. But all I could think about was how many times she had lied. How many times she had smiled at me, kissed me, told me she loved me, all while sneaking around with my brother. She was still wearing the ring I had given her, and that was the last thing I saw before I turned my back on her forever. After Jessica left, I called Ryan. I don't even remember what I said, it was all a blur of rage and pain. He tried to play it cool at first, brushing it off as a drunk mistake that didn't mean anything, but when I pressed him, he got defensive. And then he said it. Well, maybe if you'd been a better fiancé, she wouldn't have come to me. I saw red. My hands clenched into fists, my vision blurred. Years of playing the forgotten child while Ryan was treated like God's favorite child came rushing back, fueling the fire inside me. Before I knew it, I was in my car, speeding toward his apartment, ready to do something, anything, to make him regret those words. I didn't know exactly what I was planning, but I didn't care. The betrayal, the humiliation, the weight of always being the background character in my own family's story, it all boiled over at once. But when I got there, our parents were already there. Of course they were. Ryan must have called them first, weaving a story where he was the victim, painting himself as a man led astray by temptation. He probably didn't even have to try very hard, he was the favorite child collective, the one who could do no wrong. And like always, they believed him without question. My mother turned to me, eyes already welling with tears. Nathan, you know how to be a favorite child, don't you? It's about understanding, about forgiveness. Families stick together. You can't throw away your brother over this. My father just stood there, arms crossed, looking at me with the same disappointed glare I had seen my whole life, not at Ryan, but at me. Stop acting like a child. Be a man about this. You can't hold a grudge forever. A grudge. That's what they called it. Not a betrayal, not a knife in the back, but a minor inconvenience that I was being too dramatic about. I tried to explain, to make them understand, but they wouldn't listen. They never listen. Instead, my mother actually smiled through her fake sympathy and said, which child is usually the favorite? The one who gives us a grandchild first. That was it. That was the moment something inside me snapped. I let years of swallowed resentment, buried anger, and quiet suffering explode all at once. I told them exactly what I thought of their twisted loyalty, how they had always favored Ryan at my expense, how they had never once stood by me. I told Ryan he was dead to me, that he was no longer my brother. And then I turned to my parents and told them they could have the son they always wanted, because they no longer had me. I stormed out, ignoring their shouts and pleas, and drove aimlessly for hours. No destination, no purpose, just needing to escape. I didn't stop until exhaustion forced me to. When I finally went home, my phone was flooded with missed calls and messages. Jessica, begging for another chance. Ryan, alternating between apologies and excuses. But most were from my parents, demanding that I grow up and make amends. I ignored them all. I barely ate, barely slept. I called out of work, burning through all my saved-up vacation days. I couldn't face anyone, couldn't bear the thought of having to explain what happened. I just sat in my apartment, replaying every moment of my relationship with Jessica, every interaction with Ryan, trying to figure out where I went wrong. It's been 3 months now. I moved to a new apartment, changed my number, and started therapy to deal with the emotional wreckage they left behind. But my family won't let up. Despite my efforts to cut contact. They keep finding ways to intrude on my life. They started showing up at my workplace, trying to ambush me into a reconciliation. My mother corners me in the parking lot, clutching a favorite child birthday card, tears in her eyes, playing the victim as if I were the one who tore the family apart. my father leaves gruff voicemails, full of disappointment, muttering things like, "Nathan, you need to grow up. Family forgives, real men don't hold grudges. You think you're punishing Ryan, but you're just isolating yourself." And Ryan? He's tried to approach me a few times, but I've managed to avoid him. For now. But they didn't stop there. No, they sent flying monkeys after me, extended family members I hadn't spoken to in years. Aunts, uncles, cousins, all suddenly popping up, blowing up my phone with their unsolicited advice. "Nathan, you know how important family is. You can't just disown your brother over a mistake. You need to let bygones be bygones." It's like they're living in some alternate reality where Ryan and Jessica didn't just destroy my life. Where this isn't some life-changing betrayal but just a silly misunderstanding. And the latest insult? Yesterday, I got a message from Jessica. She's keeping the baby and wants to co-parent with Ryan. And guess what? My parents are over the moon about becoming grandparents. Completely ignoring the circumstances of how this all happened. These are the same people who used to make snide remarks about Jessica when she was with me. The same mother who once mocked our relationship now can't wait to buy favorite child jewelry for her precious grandchild. The letter Jessica sent was full of apologies, full of explanations, full of her trying to justify what happened. She even had the audacity to say that she and Ryan had found real love through this difficult situation. And then, the final knife to the gut. "I hope we can all be friends someday, for the sake of the child." I am at my wit's end. Part of me wants to disappear completely, cut ties for good, move to another state, change my name, build a new life where no one knows about this mess. But another part of me is so angry, so filled with righteous fury, that I want to stay. I want to make them see just how messed up this entire situation is. I want them to understand the damage they've done. I don't know what to do anymore. The betrayal has tainted every aspect of my life. I can't even stand to be alone with my thoughts. I haven't even considered dating again. The thought of trusting someone like that terrifies me. And I've lost friends over this too. People who think I should be the one to take the high road, that I should be the bigger person, as if I am the one in the wrong. As if I should just smile and pretend like I can play happy families with the people who hurt me the most. And the worst part? The thought of Jessica and Ryan raising a child together, a child that should have been mine, is like a constant knife twisting in my gut. I know, logically, that the child is innocent. That it's not the baby's fault. But that doesn't make the pain any easier to bear. That its parents are lying, cheating scumbags is an undeniable fact, but I can't bring myself to have any positive feelings about its existence. My parents have started their usual manipulation tactics, talking about how I need to be involved in the child's life, how I'm going to be an uncle, as if this isn't the ultimate symbol of betrayal staring me in the face. The mere thought makes me physically ill. How am I supposed to look at this child and not see the wreckage my brother left behind? So, Reddit, I guess what I'm really asking is, am I the asshole for refusing to forgive my brother and ex-fiancé? Am I wrong for wanting to cut ties with my family over this? Any advice on how to move forward would be appreciated because, right now, I feel like I'm drowning in a sea of betrayal and gaslighting. I know this was long, and if you've read this far, thank you. Writing this out has been cathartic in a way. I don't know what I expect to gain from posting this, validation, advice, or maybe just the chance to scream into the void and have someone, anyone, hear me. Edit, holy crap, this blew up overnight. I'm overwhelmed by the response and support, thank you all. It's going to take me a while to go through everything, but I wanted to address some common questions. At @throwra_betrayedbro, have you spoken to a lawyer? You might need a restraining order at this point. Yes, I've spoken to a lawyer. A restraining order against my family is in progress. I never imagined it would come to this, but here we are. It's funny how which is the favorite child in a family can become painfully clear when something like this happens, because it sure as hell was never me. At @ida_uncleboundaries, but what about the baby? It's innocent in all of this. No, I have no intention of having any contact with the baby. It's not the kid's fault, but I can't be involved in its life without completely destroying my sanity. And let's be real, who is God's favorite child? Because if karma were real, Mike wouldn't be the one getting a fresh start with a new family while I'm left to pick up the pieces of my life. At HR_warrior23, what about your job? Are you safe from them showing up there? I've already spoken to HR about the situation. They've been incredibly understanding, security at the front desk has been increased, and they've even given me the option to work from home more often. I'm grateful for their support. I swear, at this point, I should get a What is Favorite Child handbook, because clearly, I missed the chapter on how to be the one my parents actually care about. At JustMovieBro99, dude, just move. Get out of there. Start over. It's definitely something I'm thinking about. My company has offices in multiple cities, so a transfer might be possible. I'm still weighing the pros and cons, but honestly, a fresh start somewhere else sounds more appealing every day. But then I wonder, can you have a favorite child if you only have one left? Because once I leave, my parents will only have Ryan. And I don't think they'd even notice the difference. At DNAPLs 456, have you considered getting a DNA test just in case? Jessica already admitted the affair, and the timeline matches up. I have no reason to believe the child isn't Ryan's. Even if, by some absurd twist of fate, it turned out to be mine, I don't think I could ever look at that child without thinking about the absolute hell they put me through. My mother keeps acting like which child is usually the favorite is a debate, but we all know the answer. And it's not me. At this offense a lot, I swear, this exact thing happened to someone I know. Betrayal like this is too common. I've been overwhelmed by the number of people sharing similar stories. It's heartbreaking to know how common this kind of betrayal is, but it's also oddly comforting to realize I'm not alone. Thank you all for your vulnerability and for sharing your experiences. Someone even sent me a favorite child birthday card joke, which, honestly, is the only laugh I've had in weeks. At Revangelical Action, you should sue Ryan for alienation of affection. I did look into it, but unfortunately, it's not recognized in my state. Even if it was, I don't think I have the energy to drag this into court right now. Instead, I'll sit back and watch as the favorite child meaning shifts in real time, because now that Ryan has a kid on the way, even he's starting to realize our parents only care about their next perfect family project. At Narcissist Detector 77, your brother sounds like a textbook narcissist. Have you looked into that? I've started reading about narcissistic personality disorder, and honestly, a lot of it makes sense. It doesn't excuse what he did, but it's helping me understand the why behind some of his actions. Though, let's be real, favorite child jokes are just narcissist coping mechanisms for people like me who know they'll never win that title. At Jessica's Family Speaks, what does Jessica's family think about all this? They're just as disgusted as I am. They've cut contact with her completely and have even reached out to offer their support to me. It's a small comfort, but I appreciate it nonetheless. Her mom even offered to send me one of those favorite child jumpers, saying, maybe if you wear this, your parents will finally notice you exist. Honestly, best offer I've gotten all year. At childfree_now, after all this, do you still want kids in the future? Honestly, this whole experience has shattered any illusions I had about love, marriage, and family. Right now, I don't know if I could ever trust anyone enough to build a life with them. The idea of bringing a child into a world where this kind of betrayal exists makes me wonder, what's the point? My parents have already picked their youngest favorite child, it's not even born yet, and it's already more important to them than I ever was. But I'm trying not to make any big decisions while I'm still processing everything. I'll update if anything significant happens, but for now, my focus is on healing and moving forward. Thank you again, Reddit. You've helped more than you know. Your support and advice have given me a lot to think about and, honestly, have been a lifeline during this difficult time. I may not be able to respond to every comment, but please know I'm reading them all, and they're helping me feel less alone in this. Hey Reddit, it's been about 2 weeks since my last post, and it's been a complete roller coaster. First off, thank you all for the overwhelming support and advice. I never expected my post to blow up like that, and reading through your comments has been both heartbreaking and oddly comforting. It's messed up how common this kind of betrayal is. The past couple of weeks have been intense, to say the least. Remember how I mentioned I was working on getting a restraining order? Well, that turned into a whole ordeal. My lawyer submitted the paperwork, and we had a hearing scheduled. I thought it would be straightforward, given the evidence of harassment and the constant intrusions into my life. I was wrong. My parents showed up to the hearing with a high-powered lawyer, some fancy guy in an expensive suit who probably charges more per hour than I make in a week. They didn't come to seek understanding. They came to destroy me. They painted me as the unstable one, the disrespectful son who was tearing the family apart over a simple misunderstanding. As if Mike had just tripped and fallen into my fiancé. But the judge wasn't buying it. She granted the restraining order against Mike and my parents, not without my mother bursting into tears in the middle of the courtroom, wailing about how family is supposed to forgive. Meanwhile, my father just sat there, arms crossed, glaring at me like I had committed murder. And then there was Mike. The moment the ruling was announced, his entire face twisted in rage. If looks could kill, I'd be 6 feet under. As we were leaving the courthouse, he tried to approach me, but my lawyer immediately stepped in, reminding him of the newly instated restraining order. Ryan just sneered. His voice was cold, low enough that only I could hear it. This isn't over. You think you can hide behind a piece of paper forever? I'd be lying if I said his words didn't shake me a little. But for now, at least, I have some legal protection. The workplace situation? That was another nightmare altogether. Remember how I mentioned my family had been showing up at my workplace? Well, that came to a head last week. I was in the middle of a meeting with an important client when my assistant suddenly buzzed in, her voice tense. "Nathan, your mother is in the lobby. She's causing a scene." Apparently, she had brought a photo album full of baby pictures of me and Mike and was trying to show them to my coworkers, painting some story about how we used to be so close and he's just confused right now, but he'll come back to us. As if this was just a phase. As if I hadn't completely cut them off for a reason. The second-hand embarrassment was unreal. My actual boss had to escort her out while my coworkers awkwardly avoided eye contact with me for the rest of the day. I don't even know how to describe what that moment felt like. Maybe humiliation. Maybe anger. Maybe a sinking feeling in my gut that no matter how many boundaries I set, they will keep finding new ways to break them. One thing is for sure, this isn't over yet. But I'm trying not to make any big decisions while I'm still processing everything. I'll update if anything significant happens, but for now, my focus is on healing and moving forward. Thank you again, Reddit. You've helped more than you know. Your support and advice have given me a lot to think about and, honestly, have been a lifeline during this difficult time. I may not be able to respond to every comment, but please know I'm reading them all, and they're helping me feel less alone in this. Hey Reddit, it's been about 2 weeks since my last post, and it's been a complete roller coaster. First off, thank you all for the overwhelming support and advice. I never expected my post to blow up like that, and reading through your comments has been both heartbreaking and oddly comforting. It's messed up how common this kind of betrayal is. The past couple of weeks have been intense, to say the least. Remember how I mentioned I was working on getting a restraining order? Well, that turned into a whole ordeal. My lawyer submitted the paperwork, and we had a hearing scheduled. I thought it would be straightforward, given the evidence of harassment and the constant intrusions into my life. I was wrong. My parents showed up to the hearing with a high-powered lawyer, some fancy guy in an expensive suit who probably charges more per hour than I make in a week. They didn't come to seek understanding. They came to destroy me. They painted me as the unstable one, the disrespectful son who was tearing the family apart over a simple misunderstanding. As if Ryan had just tripped and fallen into my fiancé. But the judge wasn't buying it. She granted the restraining order against Ryan and my parents, not without my mother bursting into tears in the middle of the courtroom, wailing about how family is supposed to forgive. Meanwhile, my father just sat there, arms crossed, glaring at me like I had committed murder. And then there was Ryan. The moment the ruling was announced, his entire face twisted in rage. If looks could kill, I'd be 6 feet under. As we were leaving the courthouse, he tried to approach me, but my lawyer immediately stepped in, reminding him of the newly instated restraining order. Ryan just sneered. His voice was cold, low enough that only I could hear it. "This isn't over. You think you can hide behind a piece of paper forever?" I'd be lying if I said his words didn't shake me a little. But for now, at least, I have some legal protection. The workplace situation? That was another nightmare altogether. Remember how I mentioned my family had been showing up at my workplace? Well, that came to a head last week. I was in the middle of a meeting with an important client when my assistant suddenly buzzed in, her voice tense. "Nathan, your mother is in the lobby. She's causing a scene." Apparently, she had brought a photo album full of baby pictures of me and Ryan and was trying to show them to my coworkers, painting some story about how we used to be so close and he's just confused right now, but he'll come back to us. As if this was just a phase. As if I hadn't completely cut them off for a reason. The second-hand embarrassment was unreal. My actual boss had to escort her out while my coworkers awkwardly avoided eye contact with me for the rest of the day. I don't even know how to describe what that moment felt like. Maybe humiliation. Maybe anger. Maybe a sinking feeling in my gut that no matter how many boundaries I set, they will keep finding new ways to break them. One thing is for sure, this isn't over yet. Last Saturday, I was at the gym, trying to punch out my anger on the heavy bag, hoping that maybe, just maybe, I could physically exhaust the rage out of my system. I was so focused, so locked into the rhythm of my workout, that I didn't notice someone step up behind me until I heard his voice. I spun around. And there he was, Ryan. Smirking like he hadn't just violated the restraining order for the second time. "Look at you," he sneered, loud enough for nearby gym-goers to hear. "Still mad? Thought you'd have moved on by now." I gritted my teeth, trying to breathe through the fury clawing out my throat. "Get out, Ryan. Now. Before I call the cops." But he just laughed. "Oh yeah? And what if I tell them you've been harassing Jessica and me? Who do you think they're gonna believe? That's when I lost it. Before I even had time to think, my fist connected with his jaw. Ryan stumbled back, eyes wide in shock for half a second before his expression twisted into something feral. Then, he lunged at me. We crashed to the floor, trading blows like we were kids again, except this time, there were no parents to break us up. No one telling me to be the bigger person. No one reminding me that Ryan just needed more attention or that I should be proud of him for trying his best. It was just raw, unfiltered rage. I landed a few more solid punches before gym staff rushed in, yanking us apart. Ryan's nose was bleeding. My knuckles were bruised. My eye was already starting to swell shut. We were both yelling, cursing, trying to break free. The gym manager's voice finally cut through the chaos. Enough. Either you both walk out of here right now, or I'm calling the police. That snapped me out of it. I grabbed my stuff and left, shaking, breathing hard, adrenaline still thrumming through my veins. And then, as I was driving home, my phone rang. Unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered it. What the hell is wrong with you? Jessica. Screaming at me. Telling me I had broken Ryan's nose and that he might need surgery. I laughed. I couldn't help it. The absolute absurdity of her calling to reprimand me, after everything they had done. I'm sorry, I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. Did I hurt your little boyfriend? The one you were screwing behind my back for months? Silence. Then, sobbing. She started rambling about how stressed she was, how the baby could sense her distress, and how I was being so selfish by causing unnecessary drama. I hung up. Blocked the number. The fallout from the fight was immediate. News spread like wildfire through our social circles. My phone exploded with texts and calls, some people taking my side, others calling me a violent asshole for attacking my poor, defenseless brother. Jessica's parents reached out again, reiterating their support for me and their disappointment in their daughter. A small comfort, but at this point, I'll take what I can get. But the restraining order? It doesn't feel like enough anymore. Ryan has made it clear he's willing to violate it. And I have no idea what he'll try next. The legal nightmare began the next morning. I got a call from my lawyer. Apparently, Ryan filed assault charges against me. I explained everything, how he violated the restraining order. How he provoked me, how he was the one who escalated it. My lawyer sighed. We'll fight it, he said, but it might be an uphill battle. You threw the first punch. So now, we're filing our own charges against Ryan for violating the restraining order. My lawyer seems confident that it will help our case, but nothing is certain. I've had to give statements to the police, show them the bruises on my face and knuckles, humiliating proof that I had to defend myself against my own brother. And the worst part? I don't think this is the end. The gym has officially banned both Ryan and me for life. I can't say I blame them, but it still stings. That place was one of the few outlets I had, one of the rare places where I could let my anger out in a way that didn't destroy me in the process. Now, that's gone too. A few days ago, my cousin Amy called. We've always been close, and apparently, she's been catching a lot of heat from the family for standing by me, but she's refusing to back down. She told me what's been going on behind the scenes, and honestly, I shouldn't be surprised. Apparently, my parents have been spinning an entirely new narrative, one where I'm the villain in all of this. They're telling anyone who will listen that I'm having some kind of mental breakdown, that Jessica and Ryan only got together after Jessica and I had broken up, and that I'm just jealous and refusing to move on. Amy says a lot of the family isn't buying it, but some are. And that's infuriating. While I've been keeping my head down, trying to piece my life back together, they've been out there spreading lies, rewriting history to make me look like some unhinged, bitter ex who can't handle reality. Things at work have been tense, to say the least. After the incident with my mom in the lobby and the fight with Ryan blowing up on social media, I can feel my coworkers tiptoeing around me, watching what they say, choosing their words too carefully. My boss called me into his office earlier this week. He started off by saying he valued me as an employee, that he understood I was going through a difficult time. And then he hit me with the real reason for the meeting. He thinks it might be best if I take a leave of absence. Just until things settle down, he said, like this was some passing storm and not my entire life crumbling in real time. We can call it a personal sabbatical, if you'd like. Paid, of course. I wanted to argue. I wanted to tell him that work is the only thing keeping me sane right now, that having something to focus on, something that isn't my family's chaos, is the only thing keeping me from losing it entirely. But I could see it in his eyes. The decision had already been made. So I agreed. I thanked him for his understanding and started packing up my office. As I was leaving, I heard them. Two coworkers whispering. Not even trying to be discreet. That's the guy whose brother got his fiancée pregnant. I slammed my office door louder than necessary as I left, taking a small, bitter satisfaction in seeing them jump in surprise. I'd be lying if I said this wasn't affecting me. Most nights, I can't sleep. I end up going on long drives, aimlessly wandering the city, just trying to get out of my own head. More than once, I found myself parked outside my old apartment, the one I shared with Jessica, staring at the windows, wondering how the hell my life became this mess. In all of this chaos, I found support from an unexpected source. Jessica's younger sister, Emma. She reached out to me through social media, apologizing for Jessica's actions, telling me she wanted me to know not everyone in her family is blind to the truth. At first, I was wary. What if this was some kind of trap? But after talking to her, I realized she's just as disgusted by Jessica and Ryan's behavior as I am. She's been feeding me information about what's going on in their world, and what she's told me. It makes my stomach turn. Apparently, Jessica and Ryan have moved in together, playing house, pretending like they didn't obliterate multiple lives just to be together. Emma says Jessica's been trying to rewrite history, painting herself as the victim in all of this, crying to anyone who will listen about how she never meant to hurt anyone, about how she and Ryan are soulmates who found each other against all odds. I can't even put into words how sick that makes me. But I'm grateful to Emma for keeping me in the loop. Because knowledge is power. Even when it's knowledge I wish I didn't have. And then there's social media. I've never been someone who shares their personal life online, but this situation has dragged me into the spotlight in the worst possible way. Someone, I'm almost certain it was one of Ryan's friends, posted about the gym fight on a local Facebook group. They didn't use our names, but they gave just enough details that anyone who knows us could figure it out. The comment section? A battlefield. Some people defending me, saying Ryan got exactly what he deserved. Others calling me unstable, violent, a danger to society. Saying I need to be locked up. Like I was the one who tore my own life apart. I made the mistake of reading through the comments one night. Too many beers in. Big mistake. By the time I forced myself to stop, my hands were shaking. I was so filled with rage, so sick of being treated like I'm the crazy one, that I picked up my phone and threw it across the room. Hard enough to crack the screen. The next morning, I deactivated almost all of my social media accounts. I can't deal with the constant notifications. The messages from people I haven't talked to in years, suddenly wanting to know every juicy detail of my personal life. And with everything that's happened, I've come to a painful realization. I can't stay in this city anymore. There are too many memories here. Too many reminders of Jessica. Ryan. My parents. Too many chances of running into them at the grocery store, on the street, or at some random coffee shop where they sit, pretending they're just a normal couple, like they didn't rip my life apart. I've started looking into transfers within my company. There's an opening in our Seattle office, and it looks promising. It's not ideal, I've never been a fan of constant rain, but at this point, I'd move to the moon if it meant getting away from all this drama. I haven't made any final decisions yet, but the idea of a fresh start is becoming more and more appealing. A new city. A new apartment. A new life. A place where no one knows me as the guy whose brother knocked up his fiancée. My parents have been suspiciously quiet since the restraining order was granted. Too quiet. I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop, for them to find some new way to force themselves back into my life. Jessica, on the other hand? She's been busy. Emma tells me she's plastering social media with updates about her pregnancy, ultrasound pictures, belly shots, sappy captions about how blessed she and Ryan are, how excited they are to start their family. Each post feels like a fresh wound reopening. Just when I start to feel like I'm healing, I get another piece of news that rips the stitches right back open. So that's where things stand now. 2 weeks ago, I thought my life couldn't possibly get any more messed up. Somehow, it has. I'm still angry. I'm still hurt. But more than anything, I'm tired. Tired of defending myself. Tired of being the one who has to justify cutting off the people who hurt me. So, Reddit, I guess this isn't even an update. It's a shout into the void. I don't know what I'm even asking for at this point. Advice? Sympathy? A time machine so I can go back and never introduce Jessica to my brother? Whatever happens next, I'll try to keep you all updated. Your support has meant more than you can imagine. It's good to be reminded that there are still good people out there, even when it feels like my whole world is drowning in betrayal and lies. Final update. Hey, Reddit. It's been a week since my last update, and I think this will be my final post on this whole mess. First off, I want to say thank you. Your support and advice have been a lifeline during the darkest moments of my life. So where do I even begin? A lot has happened in just 7 days, and I'm still trying to process it all. I guess I'll start with the biggest news. I'm moving. Yeah, that's right. I took the plunge. I accepted the transfer to Seattle. It wasn't an easy decision. But after everything that's gone down, I knew I needed a fresh start. The final push? It came after a particularly rough day last week. I had just gotten back from another meeting with my lawyer about Ryan's assault charges when I found a letter in my mailbox. From Jessica. I almost threw it away without opening it. But curiosity got the better of me. Inside was an ultrasound picture and a handwritten note. She wrote about how excited she and Ryan were about their baby. She actually had the audacity to say she hoped I could find it in my heart to be happy for them. She even wrote that the baby would love to have its uncle in its life. I saw red. Before I even knew what I was doing, I had grabbed my phone, unblocked Jessica, and dialed her number. She picked up on the second ring. And I let loose. I told her exactly what I thought of her, of Ryan, of their happy little family. I told her she was delusional if she thought I'd ever want anything to do with that child. And as far as I was concerned, she, Ryan, and the baby could all go to hell. It wasn't my finest moment. But it was the moment I knew I couldn't stay in this city anymore. That same night, I picked up the phone and called my boss. I'm taking the transfer to Seattle. I could almost hear the relief in his voice. To be honest, I think he had been worried about how all this chaos might reflect on the company. He promised to fast-track the paperwork, and by the next morning, it was official. I had 2 weeks to pack up my life and move across the country. News of my move spread like wildfire. My family found out fast. And predictably, they lost their minds. My parents showed up at my apartment, again, violating the restraining order. They were desperate to talk me out of it. My mom was crying, saying I was abandoning the family. My dad was red-faced, shouting about how I was being selfish and immature. I didn't engage. I didn't argue. I just picked up my phone and called the police. They were escorted out, and as they left, my mom turned back, eyes full of fury, and screamed, "You'll regret this. Family is everything, and you're throwing it all away." I didn't even flinch. I just shut the door and went back to packing. Ryan's reaction was different. He didn't dare contact me directly, probably because of the pending legal issues, but he made sure to make his feelings known in the most predictable way possible. A long, dramatic post on social media. Something about how some people can't handle seeing others happy and how he and Jessica were rising above the hate to focus on their new family. It was clearly aimed at me, his way of trying to paint himself as the victim. And yeah, I'll admit it stung, seeing how many people were liking and commenting in support of him. But then I reminded myself, their opinion doesn't matter. They don't know the truth. Jessica's reaction? Now that was the real surprise. After our last explosive phone call, she reached out to her sister, Emma, who, if you remember, has been keeping me in the loop about everything happening in their world. Apparently, my words hit home harder than I expected. Emma told me that Jessica completely broke down. She admitted that she knew what she and Ryan had done was wrong. She was terrified of the future, and honestly, that's not my problem. I had bigger things to focus on. Like packing up my life. That night, Emma and I were sitting in my apartment, discussing the Everton vs Liverpool football match. She was rooting for Liverpool, I was siding with Everton, and for a brief moment, I almost forgot about the mess that was my life. Then, in between plays, I took a deep breath and said, "I'm taking the transfer to Canada versus Sweden. Think about it." She turned to me, eyebrows raised. "You're actually leaving?" "Yeah," I sighed. "I just don't know which one yet. Seattle is still an option, but my boss just offered me a last-minute choice, either Canada or Sweden." Emma nodded, thoughtful. "That's a big decision." "No kidding. But at this point, I just need to be anywhere that isn't here. The legal situation is still ongoing. My lawyer assured me that my move won't affect anything. We're still pressing charges against Ryan for violating the restraining order. And we're still fighting the assault charges he filed against me. And the fact that I'm moving across the country, or maybe even across the world, that just further proves that I'm not the threat here. But at the end of the day, I'm done with this fight. I'm done giving these people space in my head. I'm not sure if I'll be posting any more updates. Part of starting fresh means leaving the past behind. And as much as this community has been a lifeline for me, I know that I can't keep rehashing this story. I need to focus on building my new life, not dwelling on the old one. So I guess this is it. My final update. Wish me luck, Reddit. Seattle, Canada, or Sweden, whichever place I choose, it's going to be a fresh start. And I intend to make the most of it. Comment below and wish me luck. Love to know you. Click on subscribe, friends.